At some point, Mr. Kurang, we understand where we came to see you leave the commission. The Attorney General at some point issued a statement saying your time at the commission was coming to an end. So we just want to know what really happened.
Well, like I said, I mean, I think I've been here there for a year. Everything is going normal. And it happens that, like I told you, the commission does what is called orders. Now, orders, in the course of the investigation, an order is like a court order by the commission, you know, asking for some action to be taken. Now, usually, as I said, the commission, you have the secretariat, you have the legal, the council, and then you have the commissioners. This execution of the orders, you know, has been given to the secretariat. In this case, the order has to do with the selling of the tractors, because Jame has got a number of tractors, Mahindra and John Deere tractors, you know, a few hundred tractors. And these tractors were in with the people by the time the commission comes for investigation. Now, when the commission sat down, the first order was for the tractors all to be collected wherever they may be and whoever may be holding them. So this was done through what they call the Government Vehicle Control Unit at the State House. Right? These tractors were collected and then placed at different police stations or different places for safekeeping. Now, after some months, the commission came up again and said, okay, these tractors, based on the investigation, have been maybe distributed by Jame based on political affiliations as such. So there was an order given, first of all, a process. Right? The first process was to determine who is holding the tractor, or for what reason is he holding it, or are they able to justify, right, whether they are putting the tractor to the best use for the community.
You mean the custodians of these tractors?
Yes, the custodians of the tractors. So we have a team within the commission and the State House Vehicle Control Unit to go and investigate for each tractor who is holding it, and then whether they have been using it for the personal or they are using it for community purposes. So different communities made presentation, or different people who were holding. Now, there were a large percentage of the tractors were being monopolized by individuals for individual benefit. I think they probably might have been given the tractors based on their political affiliation with Jame or as such. So the commission had to come to a decision what to do with the tractors now, because all the tractors were collected at different places. So they had to now take a decision. So the commission took a decision called an order. And the order is to sell, but not to sell everything, to sell those tractors that are monopolized and no justification that they are being used for community purposes. And those tractors that have got justifications, of course there were a few that were bought by people, those were returned eventually, but those that were used for community purposes like women organizations, the order was to return them to the individual owners. So the rest, because they are, that's called misallocation of resources. When a tractor is with somebody simply because of political affiliation, they had to be sold. So this was the decision.
You said to sell these tractors, but don't you think that was a bit premature on the part of the commission? The commission, don't you think, should have waited until after the conclusion of the investigation, and then from the recommendations, the selling of tractors can come?
Well, this is a very argumentative thing. People have been saying, you know, all kinds of argument. But now just imagine, how would you wait? Do you want to leave the tractors with the people who had it until the investigation is over? Or do you want to collect the tractors and keep them parking while they deteriorate in value with the rain and everything? Then you finish the investigation and start what to do with them. A commission, when you are investigating, there are other obligations. And some of those obligations that comes with every commission is preservation of value. You understand? So whatever you are investigating, you've got to make sure that the value is preserved, particularly when it's a finance commission. At the end of the day, there must be value for the people or for the taxpayer. So the commission has identified that the story behind the tractors is that the tractors likely were bought with a loan of about $6 million from the government of India. This was in the commission. It was on TV. You understand? So this loan is being paid by the taxpayer, but the tractor is being used by an individual. You understand? So when you talk about preservation of value, do you want to leave it with that individual to use it until anytime you're ready? Let's say up to now, because the repreneur action is taking that. Or do you want to take it from the individual and pack it and not do anything? Or do you want to take it from the individual and allocate it properly? I think for most governments, the issue about asset is about allocation of resources. Jammeh's government has done what is called a misallocation because you have allocated national assets, taxpayer money, loans to be paid by the taxpayer. You've allocated to political affiliates. So that's a misallocation. So for a commission, right, you are looking at it from the point of view of what is the interest of the taxpayer. And the interest of the taxpayer is to undo that misallocation. And when that misallocation is undone, to reallocate it in the best possible way. So this was, I believe, in my personal opinion, this is the logic behind the commission's order to put the assets for sale.
You were talking about the order there,
yeah.
But let's come to your sacking.
Okay, good.
What really went wrong?
My sacking is related to that. I was to execute the order with a team from the government, from the State House, a team from the Army, a team from the police, a team from the NIA. Were put together and with me to execute this order. Now, we had to sell the tractors. That's what we were asked to do. So we have to do it. So when we started selling, of course, there is an auction. The commission said it must be by public auction. So the commission choose an auctioneer. There must be a valuation. The commission choose a valuer. Then the date of the sale is fixed. Then we have to now go about the business of selling. We started selling in the combo areas. We started selling for 4 days. On the 4th day, in the morning, I got a call. I got call from some politicians that they're interested in tractors. You understand? And my response to them was, it's an open bidding process. Everybody is invited to come in there in an open market and then bid. And then if you win it, that's fine. Well, on that process, I went to the bank. I was on my way to the bank with some staff to deposit the money we collected the day before. While I was in the bank, I got another call from the office of the president, right, from somebody who said he's the secretary to the cabinet and said, I must stop the sales. I said, well, but I'm acting on an order from the commission. So I cannot take a verbal instruction to stop that order unless I have something written, either from the commission or from some legal source. So I went about doing the business, and I was supposed to go for the 4th day.
When the cabinet secretary called you,
yeah.
who did you ask him where the order is coming from? Did you ask him that?
Well, he just told me it's a verbal order.
And you didn't try to find out?
He did identify himself. That is, I don't know where he took the order from, but he did tell me, you know, the normal Gambian thing coming from, how do you call it? Authoritative or something like that. But I don't know where he's coming from. But I know he's the cabinet secretary. So I got this, and I gave him the message that I would not be able to act on a verbal instruction because, you know, we have already shown several examples of people coming to the commission and said they acted on verbal instructions. So we cannot act on verbal instructions. So I told him to get to the commission, and the commission will get to me, and then I will, of course, do what the commission asked me to do.
So what happened next?
That was in the morning. Well, I left the bank and then went to the site to continue with the sales, the process, with the team. So we arrived at the team. I met the same guy there again. There is the cabinet secretary, and he said, well, I'm the one who called you. I said, yeah, but I told you on the phone that you need to bring me something writing because I'm acting on an order, or you get to the commission and they will get to me. So he left. So we continued with the sale. And then at the end of the day, I was called to the commission. Probably he's got to the commission. I went to the commission. And then I was asked to give a report. Then I gave a report.
So this cabinet secretary, would it be Ibrahim Assise?
Yeah, certainly. So I got back to the commission. Now it was time for me to give the report because I was told that the sale will not continue until they hear from the office of the president as to why they have to stop the sales, because they had written a letter to the commission, and the commission was asking for clarification, something like that. So I was to give a report, and I met the commission the following day. It's a five-man meeting.
Yes.
The 3 commissioners, the council, and myself. So I was to give you a rundown. Now, obviously for us, the 5 days or 4 days of sales that we have done with the team, we thought we did great.
How much were you able to
make? We earned 10.5 million in 4 days of open bidding.
How many tractors did you
About 40 tractors, including some scrap. So basically, I know you know about the report that eventually came from the Attorney General. But what happened was, when we got to that meeting, it was not what I was expecting, because I was expecting that this is going to be a congratulatory meeting. The team had done well. But that was on a Thursday, somewhere on the 25th or 24th, I don't know. Now, in the meeting, some strange things happened, because I was asked on one particular transaction. We took the whole morning with the 5 of us. And what was that particular transaction? We had sold a tractor in Kanilai, and we sold it for 1.2 million, 1,250,000. For us, it was a record, that we have done something really extraordinary. But when I got to the room, I think maybe the people in the room had got noise about that, or got some information that we have done a deal in an open bidding, right, for an old tractor. We managed to sell it for 1.2 million. Because in an auction, you cannot control the price. It depends on how many people are there and what they bid. Now, what was the commissioner asking me? They were asking me, that is not possible. It's unimaginable to sell a tractor for 1.2 million or 1 million, 1.25 million. And I had to justify. So it became to a point in a discussion for a whole morning, half a day, and it hit to a point in which there was a number of issues that were raised. First thing that was raised is is this transaction real? You sold it to a businessman, maybe that we know the businessman, he can never lose that kind of money in an open auction. Yes. I said, but this is for us. We have bid the game. And secondly, they had to ask, yes, what is the value of the tractor? The value was said, the tractor is valued at 75,000. So it means we have made a profit of about 1,100,000 and something thousand profit, because the value was it. Then they had to check, what is the cost of the new tractor? Because it is an old one. When they check it, it's about $15,000. Half of what we sold it for. So we have money to sell an old tractor at a price twice the new one. So I think I can understand, for most people, this was unbelievable. But in an open bidding, where a businessman don't want to lose to another businessman, it becomes more or less like pride. So people can pay money which they would not pay under normal circumstances. But this was not understood. So, I don't know, maybe for an ordinary person, in ordinary auctions in Gambia, it doesn't happen because maybe there are negotiations, people pay lower prices. We got that amount of money. And then at the end of the arguments, of course, they get convinced that there was nothing fishy about this.
That you were
it was really a deal out of the ordinary. We got it. We didn't get the congratulations, but we got an apology. Now, for me, the argument was over. I've submitted a summarized report, and they've looked at it. I went to the bank to do the deposit for the day from the previous day again. Now, when I come back the following working day, to my surprise, the arguments have not ended. Because from moving to selling a tractor for 1.2 million and then having doubts about it, and we clearing the doubt that this was a clean deal, and somebody saying, well, I can't believe it's a clean deal because even the businessman will never pay this kind of money. But in the end, it is established that it was a clean deal. So when I came back the following day, I think, I took the first one as just like that. Yeah. That I got an apology, and I accepted the apology. But the second day when I come, it's like it's not an apology. There's a second ambush, right? And then what is the second ambush? They begin to ask questions about very small things. It's normal about $1 million. It's about things like $300 is on petrol, $2,000 is on food for the security. I found that unbelievable. So what I saw was that there was a loss of focus at that moment. And I think I felt intimidated. And of course, you had it. You had it from the TRRC. When you feel under attack or intimidated, there has to be the best form of defense. It's an offense. So actually,
this was what pushed you.
These were the circumstances that were happening at that moment.
So
right?
what did you do next? Because what we saw is that you at some point, writing this petition to the government. Also, the president was copied, I understand,
Well,
Attorney General's office.
you know,
what was that about?
You know, there were a lot of letters. I think maybe that was one letter that got out to the public. But there were so many correspondences about issues. So I would not say, you know, you would say, well, that's as if that is all. But I think there were several correspondences.
And in these correspondences,
in those cases.
What were you saying? What were your main points?
Well, the correspondences were arguments and counter-arguments. I've just explained to you an argument. So whatever I've explained to you now was on correspondence, isn't it? But because you asked me about the circumstances in which I left the job, I couldn't explain those circumstances without narrating to you what I've just told you. But, you know, what you have seen in the media, I think, is just one of the correspondences. I think there were several correspondences because, like I told you just now, when other issues came to challenge my integrity, you know, about why I should buy dinner for the police, why I should buy petrol, refund the police or the security petrol, I think those were, they were agitations or they were unnecessary things that required responses. So there were responses and counter-responses. So what you have seen is one of the correspondences.
And it would appear that your relationship clearly with the council was not the best, you know, because in that correspondence, the correspondence that led to your sacking, you raised a number of issues, allegations, if you like, and this didn't go down well with the government. I mean, you were said to have alleged that the council to the commission, Bensouda, was engaged in some illegalities. Well, what were you trying to tell the government at the time?
Well, I think I wouldn't want to go into the specifics of what happened. You know, you've seen the letter, you've seen the correspondence, you've seen it. There was nothing personal as such. I think we are all professionals, and we've all been sworn in allegiance to the country, allegiance to the people, and allegiance to the job. So at the end of the day, everybody, what you're doing, you know, you got to make sure that these allegiances are very much in your mind, yes. You know. So there was nothing personal, but when everybody, professionals, feel that issues have to be addressed, they need to address them.
It was around the 9th of July, thereabout, 2018,
yes. Yeah.
when the Attorney General, at a press conference,
yeah.
the Justice Abubakar Tambedu, that's the Minister of Justice,
yeah.
at a press conference said, and then this is what he said, and I want to read that out. I wish to announce that last week, the Secretary to the Commission, Mr. Alaji Kurang, made a number of unsubstantiated allegations against Council Ami Bensouda. Based on information available to me, Mr. Kurang acted beyond the confines of his administrative authority, which was principally to execute the orders of the Commission and not to question the wisdom or motivations underpinning those orders. Do you agree with the Attorney General on this?
Well, I would not say I agree. I don't agree with that. Now, one, there is the question
that you acted beyond
there are two issues there. I think you just read what you just read. There are two issues there. Unsubstantiated allegations, you've said it. Well, I think, you know, this is an opinion also. It is an individual opinion, isn't it? All right. Secondly, you talked about what's the other one again?
That you acted beyond.
That acted beyond. Now, that's why I have to explain to you my administrative authority. I started by telling you about orders. My administrative authority is to execute. And then what the events that I've explained to you, I got calls from politicians, I got calls from people. I did not act outside my orders because when I got the calls, I referred them to the proper procedure. Until the time that I was called by the commission to stop, of course, I stopped. So I have not done anything beyond the administrative authority. What would be beyond my authority?
Beyond authority,
yeah.
I think the minister was referring to you alleging that Council Bensouda was engaged in some dubious...
That's not beyond authority. I think that is referring to the aspect of allegations. Right? Authority is beyond authority means what did I do? That's how I understand it. I did not do
exactly,
what I did, right, in regard to executing what the commission asked me to do. So what the commission asked me to do, I did it. I did it perfectly. And when I expected a congratulations with my team, I didn't get a congratulation. But I never at any moment do anything beyond what they asked me to do.
So it is your view that this is an unfair comment coming from the Attorney General?
Yeah, I think the Attorney General has to say something, because a day before this statement, the Attorney General had invited me to his office and asked me to tender my resignation. And I told him, what's the reason? And then he talked about the issues that are going on in the commission, and talked about the fact that my CV, not to dismiss, they have decided to make a decision to let me go, but they don't want to dismiss me. And the reason why they don't want to dismiss me is because it will spoil my CV. And then, of course, I did respond to him to that. My CV is not my concern. My country is my concern. I'm a teacher, right? And really, CV doesn't matter. CV or without CV, I will keep on teaching. So let him do, basically, in summary, what he has to do.
So basically, you stood up to him?
I don't have to resign. He has to. If I resign, I have to come to talk to people like you who will be chasing me all around to tell you why I resign. But he has to, if I don't resign, then he has to do what he has to do, which is to give a statement to say why I have been relieved. So the burden is shifted on the government now, or on him, to give a justification. And if I had resigned, then it will be, the burden will be on me. And then I don't have anything to explain at that moment. So I think you get the circumstances of the statements.
And after he sacked you, what he said is, as a result of his actions, your actions, and in consultation with the commission, Mr. Kurang's position as secretary to the commission has now become untenable under the circumstances. We wish to thank him for his service and wish him luck in his future endeavors.
Well, I would say after he has convinced the president to sack me, because the Constitution, the Attorney General can recommend, the president appoints. So when you're going to be sacked, the Attorney General or anybody can go to the president and say, sack such. So when I was sacked, I was told that the president has relieved you of your position. So
that was what was in the letter?
That's what I got in the letter. The president, under section, I don't remember, has relieved you of your position. So, of course.
How did you get your letter? Did you receive a call? Where did it find?
No, the letter was brought to my office. The letter was brought after the statement, maybe 2 or 3 days after the Attorney General gave a statement. So
that you are sacked?
Yes. The statement was, I had my sacking, like you, on the TV. So he talked about this on the TV. The letter didn't come. When people asked me, I said, I haven't seen any letter. The letter came 2 days or so later after this. Because what date was this? I got my letter on the 10th. Of July, I think, last year.
So, your reaction when you heard that you were fired? What was your reaction?
It's not for me. The circumstances, things that were going when I was heard that, of course, after my conversation with the Attorney General, I know my time is over. And,
you knew your time was over.
Yeah, because he did acknowledge that we have to do the job that we were doing was a very difficult job. The job of a secretary is a responsibility. Yes. And for me, if you give me a responsibility, I want to execute it to the best of my ability. I have worked for 1 year in a commission. I haven't managed a petty cash. Yes. So you find yourself in circumstances where you have to take your own petty cash. And he did admit that when I met him, that I have done sacrifices. So basically, it has got nothing to do with me not being able to deliver what I have to deliver for my country. I have delivered. You understand? So the sacking is not about that, because I believe that the calls that I got has got to do with maybe giving the tractors to the politicians, right? Which there was already a recommendation as to how the tractors should be distributed. So if I ignore those politicians and the calls and whatever, right, I think I'm focusing on what I swore myself into, to work for my country. You understand? To work for my country. But what is explained to the president is not within my knowledge. Because
But do you think the sacrifices, you talked about the sacrifices, do you think it was fair at all to just sack you?
No, it was not fair. It was not fair. It was even unconstitutional.
But also it was clear that your relationship with the orders that the commissioners, the council was deteriorating. So the government was saying that they wanted to put an end to that in the interest of the work of the commission.
I have not written anything against the commissioners because I believe I sit with the commissioners for 1 year, right? And I have all my respect for them, and I believe it's mutual. But I have not written anything against them because I believe that the commissioners...
Yes, I want to put that to you because...
Yeah, but let me answer that point first. I believe that the commissioners, right, has to be judged based on the report they give. It's not for me to give them, to judge them, right? Now, with regard to, of course, the sacking, it's unconstitutional. When I, for example, the day, even before I received a letter, when the day of the Attorney General's statement and so on, I spoke to the Vice President, right? And his first reaction was, it's unconstitutional.
The Vice President told you
yes, it's unconstitutional.
That would be Fatmata Jallow Tambajang.
No, that is Hussein Dabo. At that moment, right? It's unconstitutional. He's a lawyer. Because I was sworn in through the Constitution. The commissioners are sworn in. The council is not sworn in. The council is technically not a member of the commission. The council is simply an advisor to the commission. You understand? Yes, but so where in the Constitution does it say that I have to be sacked based on what?
But he who has the power to appoint,
of course, has the power. That's what I'm saying.
To fire.
All the time. That's why they fired, right? All the time. But we still have. That does not mean that we should not give arguments, you know, for the sake of history and for the sake of the future. So you were going to ask something else.
No, I was going to ask you because something that also came out during your sacking has to do with Council Bensouda. You reported to have said that the lead counsel you accused the lead counsel of orchestrating political interference in frustrating the sale of impounded tractors of former President Yahya Jammeh.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember that statement was announced because, you know, I told you in the morning I got calls, right? And I got calls from two of the mayors, the mayor of Banjul and the mayor of the KMC. And a day before that, of course, the council herself had told me she wanted a tractor. For me, that was a normal conversation. My standard response is to anybody, I've been given a mandate by you people, so anybody who wants a tractor, come to the auction. It's simple. You understand?
And then take part in the
bidding. And take part in the auction. So I don't even need to be called. I don't need to be called. I don't need to be told that you need to, because the people who are saying that either they know it or I've explained it to them. You understand? So I think that's just something I can comment on what you ask.
And also, when you were, finally, when you were sacked, and I think you had an interview with the Standard. The Standard, I think, interviewed you, and you, in the interview, you were quoted as saying that I have no regrets for the job which I did, and I wish the best for the people I met and worked with.
Yeah, that's true. Because, you know, as a secretariat in a commission, you are at the center of different groups. See, there are securities from all sectors, close protection, you know, guards, home guards, you know, office guards. There are intelligence officers. There are government workers from the Ministry of Justice, right? There are lawyers, you know, from different places. And then, of course, there are the commissioners. There are reporters. So you work with a great number of people, and you link all these people up, right, at different angles. There are witnesses, of course. So I think I gained a lot from that, right? And I work with some very fantastic people because the successful sales that we did, right? You know, if you look at the figures, you know, you realize that we sold 10 million in 4 days, right? If we had continued, it would have been a different story. But when the sale was stopped, it went up to the whole of the rainy season. There was no tractor sales. The tractors were standing under the rain. Therefore, when the sale eventually took place, you can look at the numbers again and do some comparison and see that, you know, I have worked with great people. And these people have helped me within that 1 year to achieve some very important milestones. So even though I left the commission, right, I am very much appreciative of the people that I worked with within the commission from up all the way down. right? Differences, they might be, but they know I don't keep grudges. I have to tell you how it is like, right? But at the end of the day, it has to go smooth. It was because when we met there, maybe out of 70 or so staff, I was one of the few people, right, that was not working with the government, that was not a civil servant. Apart from the commissioners, maybe I was one of few that was not a civil servant, and then some of the lawyers. So to come and connect with the government employees, public servants, and work with them, speak to them in their language, right, was an eye-opener.
That was
right.
great.
Yes.
But then there was this thing, argument that, most of the people who were working at the commission were driven by the money, because you people were making a lot of money. Is this the case?
Well, I was not driven by money, because I think if I was driven by money, I would have just kept quiet and collect 100,000 a month, because that's what they were paying me, right? And I know that there are a lot of people also who are not driven by money. I believe that the commissioners, no matter what disagreements I have with them, I believe that most of them are men of integrity, right? And I believe that they're doing it for reasons other than money. So I don't buy into that again. But obviously, if you're doing a sacrifice with that, even for some of us, what is being paid, right? Really, we could have got it somewhere else during that 1 year. You have to understand the 1 year is a total seesaw of a man's life, complete with all the different challenges, security, other issues, public perceptions, and so on. So, well, you cannot also deny that maybe, some people might be in it for the money, but you can also argue that there are people also who are doing it for the country.
During your time at the commission, one thing that also happened was site visits.
Yeah.
You went on a lot of site visits. You went to Kanilai. You went to other places. So in places like Kanilai, what intrigued you? What were some of the things that stunned you, that you stumbled upon?
Yeah, I think Kanilai is very interesting because I went there with the commission, and I went there several times, with the team. We did the counting of the cattle, run after them in the bush and tag all of them, right? And then we did inventory of some of the houses to see what's in there. Well, I think, Kanilai is very interesting because it gives you a perception about how Yahya Jammeh was ruling the country. You have a big pond, right, that's got so many crocodiles in. You have 1 or 2 or 3 crocodile pools, and you look at it. For me personally, it was an eye-opener because I have never been to Kanilai before that. I always tell people, well, I'm not curious about Kanilai. Sometimes fate is like that. And I used to say, they say, oh, but why don't you want to go and see? I say, but I read books. I read books about other dictators and how they set up their places. So I'm not curious because I've been reading these books since when I was a kid. So I can imagine what is in Kanilai by reading books and then also the news reports. But it's an eye-opener because I think you see a lot. I cannot say everything which I saw, right? But there are a lot of interesting things. Even if you enter the ex-president's house, it's very interesting. What is in there. So it's quite interesting. I always remember, one thing which I have to tell you, right? Is there was
Go ahead.
It's like. I think Africans believe in jujus. I think the ex-president believed in jujus. So there is a bag which we were using, and then the bag was brought, and I opened the bag, and then they passed me the bag. When they opened it, they saw it's jujus. So a lot of the securities around there don't want to touch it. So I had to go. I had to do it because I was the leader of the team.
Yes.
I put my hand in and took the jujus out. And then, of course, I discovered other things under the juju, right? But it's just... For me, a human being is a human being. You understand? There is nothing like, Jammeh is not a jinn or he's not a wali. But I believe my goings and so on, Jammeh is a very intelligent person also. I think most Gambians would underrate him, but he's super intelligent, in terms of the information that he stores. I think this is one of the things, because I'm an information person. I deal with information. I sell, buy, and study information. So I think when you enter into a man's space, you can tell something. I think Jammeh, stores a lot of information. And I've had that before. A senior lawyer had told me, Jammeh has a photographic memory. But I think that he is highly intelligent and he stores a lot of information, both outside his brain and within his brain.
Within his brain.
So this is my
let me then ask you this. In percentage terms, at what point did you leave the commission? 50% into the job?
I think the commission ran up to February. So I left in July. I ran for 1 year. On the 10th July, 25th July, I hand over on it because I got my letter on the 10th of July. I handed over on the 25th of July. It took me about 15 days because I was responsible for so many things. There were, you saw the exhibition. There were guns, there were bullets, there were jewelries, there were thousands of files. They were all under my custody with my staff. But I had to personally hand over each and every single thing, right,
so
before I leave.
Yeah.
So that took some time. So basically, I served for 1 year, right? And then I think when I left, they operated for about 8 months. So 1 year, 8 months. So I must have left like 60% of the way.
60% of the way?
60% of the way. But then, in terms of documents, from what I've seen, I think 75% of the way, the documents in terms of the information that came in.
That was when you left.
Yeah.
So now you left and then life went on.
Yeah.
The Janet Commission continued its investigation, its probe, and then at some point this year they finally submitted a bulky report to the problem, to the president. Sorry,
yeah.
You were, I'm sure you were watching somewhere. You've been following, monitoring events as they unfolded. When you left, what would be your assessment of the entire investigation?
Well, it's very difficult to say, to give an overall perception about the entire investigation because I think we need to see the report. We need to see what is the conclusion, what has been included, what has been excluded, what actions have been recommended. Then we can say, well, this is how, what we overall feel about it. I think that's fair enough, isn't it?
But I think the government has also given us a real peep into what is in the report. If you go to the government, many government is telling us that Jammeh pilfered billions of dollars.
Yeah.
That is what the government is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
So, do you agree?
In terms of magnitude, I agree that it could even be more than that because everybody who worked in the commission would tell you we could not have looked at, the commission could not, even if you extend it for 5 years, it could not looked at every single thing that Jammeh did. That's not possible, even if you go for investigation for 5 years. My perception is, from the beginning, when I remember when we were appointed and we were having a casual conversation, and somebody said, like, how much you think we'll be looking for, and some of us said, maybe $1 billion, US dollars, So, but as the investigation goes on, well, what we're looking for, every Gambian can make a perception. This was not a secret investigation. It was very open. You look at the corporations, you look at that, you look at the governments, you look at the deals, etc. I believe the investigation did not exhaust. That's my personal belief. Did not exhaust all the things that could have been looked at. How much have been looked at, we need to see the full report to know. But I think if the government said Jammeh took billions, right, I will not be the person
But
to
then
deny
one thing that is very key, that is very important to this investigation, is the recommendations that are going to come out of this.
So,
and the president, what is being said is that it may take him up to 6 months before he concludes or finishes, going through the report. Do you have faith in the president, implementing some of these recommendations that might have been provided by the commission?
Do I have faith in the president? Well, I think we have to see, because the report is submitted. The Attorney General has, invoked a certain aspect of the Constitution that says that it will take them 6 months. They have a mandate, isn't it? The law gave them the right to review it for 6 months before they come to a conclusion. I think at the end of that 6 months, we're expecting to see a full publication of the reports, or where the government needs to be. And then we need to see a full comprehensive view of what needs to be done. Well, I have had some I've read some things in the papers and then on the online, the Attorney General calling people who have been adversely mentioned to go and see. I don't know what is the purpose of that, because I believe that recommendations will be in the form of practical actions like take legal action, prosecute, seize assets. So I don't know the purpose of why the Attorney General is calling people to go to the office. Well, we have to wait and see about the full toolkit of what the government will do in terms of report. But I think this report is very important because this investigation is very important. 22 years of so many things happen, and the country is in a very serious financial problem, right? The total debt of the country goes about 80% of the GDP. Every year, everything we produce, every dollar we produce, 50% goes to pay debts. So the Gambia is in a serious financial situation.
And one thing that was a lot of Gambians railed against was the fact that at the presentation of this report, it was revealed that about $51 million went into the administration of this commission in terms of salaries, everything, which you were also part of. A lot of Gambians were really angry. They were shocked when they heard that. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think if you are looking for billions, you got to spend money. That's one, right? Two, I believe that the actual cost will be more than 51 million. Both the implicit and the explicit cost. Don't forget that you got about 70 or close to 100 staff of the government concentrated there. Whatever cost is being calculated did not include their normal salaries, which are running. It's only talking about what the commission pays them. So implicit in accounting, we say implicit and explicit cost will be far more than 51 million. But then at the end of the day, well, if you are looking for billions, you need to spend money. The question now is, that money will be a waste, a complete waste, if two things don't happen. One, if the report did not include all that the people or all that is reasonably expected to be included. One. Two, if the government, after getting the report, no matter what it may be, refuses to take action or fails to take action, then even 1 million would be too much money.
So that's why it is. Yeah. So now, before I leave you, I want to ask you a general question. Yeah. I've been seeing you writing a lot on issues on the state of the nation, the state of affairs. You are an economist. You're also an accountant, a teacher. What do you make of the state of the nation? Generally.
Economically, or
economically, let's start there.
I think we are in a situation. We are in a transition. Right? And the transition, 3 years or 5 years, it's a transition. And I think the transition has got objectives. And that's why we have a finance commission to solve some of the finance problems, the Janneh Commission. We have a TRRC, which is supposed to deal with some of the human rights things and correct them and to make sure they don't happen again. The same thing, the Janneh Commission is also about never again. We should never have those financial dealings going wrong in government offices as we are talking now. And three, there is the constitutional review, which, of course, is to make sure that we have a legal document that will reflect the wish of the people. The government will be judged based on this criteria. The Janneh Commission has finished. We need to see the report, and we need to see action. One, this TRRC is about human rights abuses. The victims are waiting for justice. And then the law tribe has a saying, justice delayed is justice denied. Now, when are we going to see a TRRC report is the first question. We cannot have a TRRC report in the middle of the next political season. It will be very difficult for the government to act on it. So reasonably, if the transition is 3 years, if we cannot have a TRRC report in 3 years, right?
Clearly, that's not possible.
We need to have it by the middle of next year. Yes. Even if the people are going to work overtime. Because anything beyond the middle of next year makes things a little bit technical or tricky. Why? Because the Attorney General may invoke again another 6 months to study the report. Yes. So if you get it in the middle of next year, they're going to study it for 6 months. It goes to the end of the 4 years. Isn't it?
Yes.
At the end of the 4 years, you have the political season begin. What could you do with justice? Of course, it's possible. You could do a lot. Now, with regard to the CRC, which is the Constitutional Review Committee, well, we have a situation in this country because people have voted, and people have voted parliamentarians and the executive. The executive has set up the CRRC, but that does not absolve the parliamentarians to go ahead and remove the laws which were there by the previous government and that are not in favor of the citizens. They don't have to wait. Nobody is telling the parliament or the National Assembly, wait until the CRRC finishes. That's nowhere in the constitution. That's nowhere in the social contract. Yes. So they need to go ahead and amend the laws that are there. Then we can expect from the CRRC to concentrate on some critical matters. Critical matters, things that have got to do with entrained clauses, 50+1 or simple majority, right? Citizenship, yes, etc. Yes. Term limits. Those are the big issues that we are expecting from the CRRC. But we're not expecting the CRRC to walk on the ground, right, yes, like an ant and pick up every single piece. That should be done at the National Assembly. So justice, the Janet Commission, the TRRC, the CRC, these are very expensive exercises. But they will be even more expensive if they are delayed and if they did not deliver. And if they deliver, the government did not act on it, they will become extremely expensive. Like I just said, the Gambia is in serious economic situation. Yes. And as an economist, I sometimes follow the arguments. Right? You look at the IMF. Right now, the government has signed what is called, staff, something like IMF staff to be based here, so that the government could satisfy the conditions of what they call, how do you call it again? Extension credit program. Facility. Extension credit facility. Meaning that the Gambia, because it has taken so many debts since independence, is becoming a pressure. And that's why the last government was just borrowing through treasury bills. Now that we, the IMF and the other people, and we ourselves said the treasury bills must go away and reduced, now we still have the problem of debts. But you cannot reduce your debts. There are a lot of catching things with debts. Because if you don't manage these debts, your creditors will not give you more money. To manage these debts, you must reduce your expenses. Yes. So the current government, which is a transitional government, must focus on reducing those expenses, no matter where they may be, by making the public enterprises efficient, by reducing the unnecessary travelings, so that some of the funds, not only to get more credit and not only to pay our creditors, but the Gambia has a growing population. Within these 5 years of the Barrow government, every year take 15,000 people from grade 12. Every year. In 5 years, that's 75,000 young men. How many jobs are being created every year? Maybe just 10%.
10%
of that. So you have 75,000 people in 5 years who leave school and there is no job. Added to it, other hundreds of thousands that have been graduating and are still sitting on the streets. No job. So every politician and every responsibility must realize that the problems are not already there, but they are being compounded by natural factors like population growth, lack of employment, etc. So this now is the situation. We have legal issues, we have transitional issues, we have real economic problems because poverty is on the increase. And that was one of
the government is not doing much.
Yeah, that was one of my arguments with the tractor sales, because when I left, the tractor stood for a year. A tractor, the job that a tractor could do is the job of a whole village or a battalion. If you let a tractor sit down a whole rainy season, do nothing, the economy, the contribution of one tractor in a day, in 3 months, in a rainy season, multiplied by 200 tractors, how much do you get? The economists have what they call the multiplier effect. Each and every decision of the government has got or individuals or commissions has got, is either an injection into the economy or a withdrawal from the economy. But if you withdraw $1 million from the economy, economists say that the effect on the GDP can be 5 million because of the concept that the money is going to flow around before it finally reaches the GDP calculator. So decision making is the key. And the government
is the key thing here.
Is the key thing. Decision making in every aspect, in every commission that is being set up. Decision making also, timely decision making.
Clearly out there, people are disappointed when it comes to some of these things that you are talking about, economic wise. What do you think really is the problem when it comes to the borough government?
Well, I think there are a number of issues because, first of all, the Janneh Commission was supposed to be a kickstart, a tool that we will use not only to understand the economy, but to know where it's leaking, what to pluck, and to move to the next step. We haven't seen that yet. We're yet to see that happening. One. Two, we know that the Jammeh's rule for 22 years is characterized by rampant corruption. Yeah. Has that been corrected? Not only at the level of the president. If the president is not taking money like Jammeh, fine. But what about the level of the corporates, the level of the government, the level of the parastatals? Is it happening?
And even to the level of the cleaner.
Exactly. So is corruption being dealt with? Because corruption is such a spoiler. It's such a spoiler you cannot even estimate. I just mentioned to you a multiplier concept. If you take 1 million, you can estimate with a multiplier, multiply by 10 and say the national multiplier is 10 and say the country economy will lose 10 million. But what about if you don't know how much is being taken?
So that's a problem.
Yes. Because you know you can do something.
Yes.
But what can you do?
Yes.
So it's like it's like the economy is operating in a black hole. So the government needs to move ahead and need to know that the weaknesses of the Jammeh regime are corrected and there must be a system of reducing and eliminating corruption. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. Do easy. No. And the transition will come. Because I always tell people, right, the current government will be judged based on some of the things which I have set up. What they do with the Janneh Commission, what is done with the TRRC, what is done with the CRC, what is done with corruption, what is done with the economy to generate employment. These are the criteria that they will be judged on. But not only they will be judged on, these are the criteria that will determine what we eat, what the ordinary Gambians will eat. Because for me, I don't know, I don't know about you, but for me, I think that when you walk on the streets, I am feeling that, hunger is fine, isn't it? Yeah, you feel that if you're an entrepreneur, right, or if you are a consumer, you go to the market, you feel that, yeah, something needs to be done. Prices needs to come down. Jobs need to be created. Every day people come to me, I want a job. But what can I do? You can open a whole newspaper in the Gambia from start to finish. You cannot see one advert in a day. And that's abnormal.
That's not normal.
That's not normal.
For the
zero job creation. And if some of the things are closing, like during the impasse and so on, some of the businesses close, you can even have negative unemployment. Meaning that instead of gaining, we are losing jobs. So these are burning issues that I believe that the government needs to look at.
Mr. Alaji Kurang, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Alaji Kurang, who is the former secretary to the Janneh Commission, talking to us there. That will be it for this interview. Until we come your way again, my name is Lavin Jai. Goodbye.